Це був успішний тиждень для української дипломатії.
It was a successful week for Ukrainian diplomacy. We worked 24/7. It was not easy, but we achieved all the results we expected. You can see the number of visits of world leaders and top officials to Ukraine, the number of contacts of the president, the number of my telephone conversations. This is all part of our network diplomacy and the transformation of Kyiv into a truly center of diplomatic work. Just this week, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky received historic visits from British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. I can say that there has never been a week in the history of Ukraine with such an intensity of bilateral visits of this level. The Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal received his Polish counterpart Mateusz Morawiecki. I have held talks with the foreign ministers of Greece, Sweden, the Netherlands, Spain, France and the United Kingdom, Guatemala. There was supposed to be a conversation with New Zealand today, but the schedule changed a bit and we postponed it. But it will definitely happen. Therefore, you see that the geography of our diplomatic efforts is not limited to the usual tradition list of our European and North American partners. In recent months, Kyiv has become a real center of gravity for international politics, and this week only clearly confirmed this fact. Next week promises to be not less intense. It's not a coincidence. It's not the stars that came together. This is a purposeful strategy which is backed by a large and focused work of President Zelensky and the entire diplomatic team of Ukraine. At the end of last year, when threats from Russia began to grow, I immediately invited my partners to visit Ukraine in January and February to support our state and reduce the risks of escalation. All our embassies and departments of the ministry have been instructed to process visits of foreign guests. The idea is that the intensive and continuous flow of high-level foreign delegations to Ukraine keeps Russia from further aggravating the security situation, so it is also a deterrent. And that's exactly what is happening. Situations can be kept stable and under control despite high risks. And today Kyiv has become the #1 direction in the world international politics. In addition, all these visits are now just for the sake of formality. Partners bring with them specific security or financial support for Ukraine or provide it immediately upon return home. We coordinate important political positions with our partners during the visit and coordinate our diplomatic efforts. Poland is handing us the latest weapons. The Czech Republic granted a similar request. Britain has provided an additional £88 million of economic aid in addition to defense weapons. The Netherlands is ready to open new opportunities in trade and investment. The countries of the Bucharest Nine are preparing decisions to support Ukraine in response to our military assistance measures. But the quintessence of diplomacy this week was undoubtedly the historic visit of the Turkish leader, during which our countries signed 8 extremely important strategic documents. Among them is a free trade agreement that has been negotiated for almost 10 years, which will allow us to achieve a turnover of $10 billion a year at an accelerated pace. I think there is every reason to set a new ambiguous goal to reach $15 billion a year in trade between Ukraine and Turkey. An agreement on a new level of cooperation in the production of drones was also signed. This is a strategic strengthening of the defense capabilities of both our countries and an additional load on our defense companies. And a very important component of President Erdogan's visit is the discussion with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky of Turkey's initiative on a mediating role between Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine and Turkey are also increasing their diplomatic presence. New Turkish Consulate General in Kharkiv will open soon. After that, in Lviv. Ukraine will increase its representation in Antalya to the level of the Consulate General. For Ukraine, the opening of Consulates General in Turkey means more diplomatic presence, more opportunities to attract tourists, and more opportunities to attract Turkish investment in Ukraine. For Ukraine, raising the status of our consulate in Antalya will mean that there are quality services for Ukrainian tourists and even more protection for them in case of the emergencies during their vacation. I would like to emphasize that such documents that Ukraine has signed with Turkey are not signed on the verge of war or destabilization. The conclusion of these agreements is another evidence that despite all the horrors and threats, Ukraine today is firmly on its feet and confidently developing, and partners believe in Ukraine. Thus, the strategy of intimidation by Moscow does not work. Russia lost this round. The risks remain, and we really continue to prepare for any scenario, but Russia lost this round. We continue to strengthen, become stronger, develop mutually beneficial cooperation with key players in the region, so as not to think about it in Moscow. Yesterday, I took part in the ministerial meeting of the Bucharest Nine at the invitation of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Romania, Bogdan Aurescu. This is the first time that NATO's eastern flank flank and Ukraine have joined in this format. As a result of this meeting, it is understood that a number of countries on NATO's eastern flank, as I said, are preparing decisions to provide additional security and economic support for Ukraine. Another guest of the meeting was the French foreign minister, and it is very symbolic that one of the key NATO Western powers and Ukraine, as a future member of NATO and future part of NATO's eastern flank, were present at the meeting. I want to assure you that such intensive diplomacy will continue throughout February for the security of Ukraine and the peace of Ukrainians. Next week we will have new visits from friendly, important European countries. There will be many diplomatic contacts between the President of Ukraine, the Chairman of the Verkhovna Rada, the Prime Minister, the head of the President's office and mine. All these visits and contacts this and next week demonstrate that Ukraine is important to the world. Ukraine is an active participant in international politics, and this is one of the key elements of Ukraine's foreign policy strategy and one of the ways to deter Russian aggression. Top visits seriously reduce security calls and confuse Kremlin maps. Ukraine is an important partner, and we are already perceived as an integral part of the event, and we convincingly demonstrate and prove to our partners that the future of Euro-Atlantic security is being decided in Ukraine today. And that is why what is happening here in Ukraine is extremely important for the whole world. Therefore, when someone threatens us, world leaders come to us to stand side by side and make decisions that support these visits with practical help. Perhaps the leadership of the Russian Federation hoped that Ukraine would be left alone, but the opposite happened. Russia was left alone with its troops and threats. We have managed to mobilize the highest international support in history to protect Ukraine from Russian aggression, and I can say with absolute responsibility that today Ukraine has the strongest international position since 2014. We will continue this work. It is very important not to allow the Russian Federation to split Ukraine and Ukraine's partners to shake us from within, to intimidate Ukrainian society or to destabilize the situation inside the country. That is why I call once again, dear Ukrainians, believe in your state, believe in your army and in your diplomats, believe in yourself, and then everything will be fine with us, and no external forces will break us. Well, first of all, despite his illness, Andriy Yermak stays in touch and is completely in the work process. Yesterday, in particular, a meeting was held online under his chairmanship to prepare for a meeting of advisors in the Normandy format. Therefore, he did not stop working on the preparation of the meeting. Definitely, the ideal scenario is for this meeting to take place physically, personally, because with all due respect and sympathy for modern technology, but nothing will replace a personal meeting. Let's hope that he recovers by the time of this trip. If not, then I will make the appropriate decisions depending on the situation. As for the situation in Israel, I know about it. You see, all the ambassadors of Ukraine have been instructed by me to resolutely and rigidly defend the national interests of Ukraine. It is in this situation that we are now studying in detail the ambassador's report on how events unfolded in Tel Aviv and what led to this situation, and after that we will be able to comment further.
Recently, U.S. intelligence reported that Russia was feeding a fake video to accuse. And does Ukrainian intelligence have relevant information?
Сполучені Штати
The United States shared this information with us shortly before the information you referred to was released, warned that such information is available. We are now waiting for more details. As for Ukrainian intelligence, the issue should be addressed to them now. I have not seen any reports so far, but to be honest, yesterday was such a crazy day that I didn't even have a free second to talk to my colleagues from the intelligence agencies of Ukraine. I will definitely do it today. But in short, we knew from the United States that such information would be made public. In principle, what was made public does not surprise us. In 2014, you and I saw many insidious actions of the Russian Federation. We have seen that they do not stop at anything when they try to falsify something and accuse Ukraine of something else. In fact, the whole operation to illegally occupy Crimea also took place under what is called a fake flag, because Russian soldiers took off any insignia, any symbols that could identify them, and occupied Crimea under an unidentified flag, although everyone understood that they were Russians. Here, in this situation, it is very important that any plans and intentions of Russia that are brought to light, and accordingly we managed to respond them. We continue to cooperate with the United States on the intelligence line, on the diplomatic line, in order to expose the numbers, the malicious intentions of the Russian Federation.